Now he's got to
Oh
go to
yeah.
Fundo, and you see, you know.
Yeah. And when I take them down to one stick, they're like, one stick? I said, yeah, one stick. And then I give them two. Like one guy just, I mean, we had two sticks today. I said, don't make me regret this, Carl.
My name's Jamie Sparling. Welcome to the FormABLE Podcast, where we talk about formable moments in the lives of martial artists as well as formable moments in training in the martial arts. Today, I have Lynn Varghese with me, and she is a instructor in the Inosanto family as well as the Minnesota Kali group. I see her at just events all the time. My students are always so thankful if they get paired up with you. So I thank you for that. Yeah, and it's really neat to hear all the great things that you're up to right now working with Rocksteady Boxing. How's life treating you, Lynn?
It's going well. I actually do have a full-time job. When I started martial arts, I guess I'm kind of a people would say I'm an ambivert because when it comes to martial arts, if you get me up there, I could talk all day long, but I'd much rather be in my home being a medical coder for Mercy Hospital here in St. Louis.
Okay.
And I don't have to talk to anybody. I have two screens that I kind of talk to and I do my job. But martial arts was a side thing that kind of got me outside of my comfort zone and I could meet people and yeah, so I'm busy with work and I'm busy with other things, especially the martial arts on the side.
Yeah, I bet you are. Knowing you from martial arts and seeing you at events, you seem like a social butterfly, so it's hard for me to think of you in any other context.
Right. Yeah. I mean, someone told me, said, well, you're kind of a, quiet personality, and I'm very comfortable in that situation. But I realized that when it came to martial arts, and if I was teaching or training people, especially women in self-defense, I had to be not someone that I'm not, but I had to kind of dig deep to kind of be more
Yeah.
outgoing. And because when you're swinging those sticks around, you don't want anybody to hit themselves. So especially when I'm teaching people, I want them to hear me and I want them to understand what I'm trying to teach them. So yeah, my husband. If you met my husband, he's the extrovert. I'm the ambivert, but I prefer to be the introvert when I get a chance. So
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I like sticking around home and whatnot myself. What I heard there was passion for the martial arts kind of brings you out of your shell. Is that right?
I actually started training in martial arts, believe it or not, in 2012. And my husband wasn't so keen on me training with guys. And so I respected him for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, this is the deal. My son has been training it for 7 years prior to me starting. And when I used to take Benjamin for training, I was like, wow, this is really cool what he's learning. And I have a family history of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. So
Okay.
I thought, what better way to keep the brain active, the body active to learn this? And so in 2012, I told my husband, well, if I can't go to school and train like Benjamin does, I need a heavy bag and I need a pair of sticks and I need Guru Dan Inisano's DVD on the martial arts, and which I got all three.
Yes.
And so I started hitting sticks in my basement in 2012.
Wow, you've come a long way since. That's amazing, Lynn. That's not an easy thing to
Yeah.
do on your own too, and to stay motivated. Uh, One of my stories, the Astelia system, right, where the two sticks start here. That was one that I started learning when I had moved to my current location in Wausau and I didn't have any training partners. So that was one literally that I did in the air at work, and so yeah, that's real. I literally was just teaching that and talked about that last night, and that's not easy to keep that motivation.
No, I for a whole year I was in the basement. It sounds awful. I went to the basement for a year. I was determined. I'm a very stubborn person, and that can be a good thing, a bad thing. I'm very persistent, and I'm very yeah, I'm stubborn. That's why my husband kind of gave in and said, "Okay, I'll give you the heavy bag, and I'll get you the sticks, and I'll get you the DVD." And then I just kept going with it, and literally learned heavy six on a heavy bag, watching Guru Asano, and I watched the whole video and I was just like, wow, there's just a wealth of information here. And I told my husband finally, I said, you know what? How about if I go train with Benjamin, my son? And he kind of gave in because he knew I was so determined. And then I started
Hmm.
training with Benjamin around 2013.
Well, I'm sure that he this is the wrong way to say it. In his own way, he was probably just trying to protect you because sometimes men are just bigger and they can get excited, and so I can respect that. I can respect that too. But what a way, like, that's not easy to sit and to figure it out and to go through. I have a lot of those DVDs and I'll put them in and I like the information part, but let's just say I'm not up trying to figure it out as much as I should be. So, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. And then when I started, in 2013, I started training with Benjamin. He was at Apex Martial Arts, which was kind of Joe Craig,
Yeah.
Matt Stumpf, and all those people. And I trained with them for about 3 years. I actually trained alongside my son Benjamin and Guru Matt Stumpf for 3 years. And he was my first instructor. And I learned a wealth of information. So, like you said, you go from the DVD, it's great, but then you get it on one-on-one with the person, it completely changes the dynamics and the
Yes.
sound of the stick and the rhythm and where to position your body and your feet. So I really grew in those 3 years from just the basic stuff I learned on the DVD to actually training alongside of an instructor. So
Matt's a great instructor too. I think really highly of him. And it's funny as we talk about this, it almost sounds like you learned it from a more traditional, like in the air by yourself, right? And then you have to
yeah.
adjust, right? And sometimes questions like specifics in the air can make a lot of sense. But when he's taller, you still got to reach up. So,
Yes, yes. My son was taller than me. I'm only 5'2". And it was kind of nice. I stood across from Guru Dan Asano and he's just a little taller than me. So it's like, oh, I like this. It's like I can add, do this, but I've trained with people that are much taller than me, and it changes the dynamic. And my hands want to go up higher because I think I have to bring them up higher because they're taller than me. And so through those years, I learned, no, you do you, but there's ways to adjust it to make sure you have your sticks all the way up in the air because you don't want to
mm-hmm.
do that. So I learned so many different intricacies of the martial art just through Matt Stumpf and other people, Joe Craig and other people at Apex at the time, that I think laid a nice foundation for me as I was growing in the martial arts.
Yeah, and you're taking that now into rock steady?
Yeah. So, like I said, during COVID, I kind of made a break from teaching. I was teaching MKG curriculum because I was instructor under Guru Rick Fay
Mm-hmm.
and Guru Linda Ramsey. And so I started teaching their curriculum. And, you've been to different martial arts schools and things just kind of went haywire. They wanted to go a different direction. And so I got out and I told my son, Benjamin, because he knows, what I was training and what when I talk about, it's kind of like different language when you talk about martial arts that we do. And I told Benjamin, I said, Benjamin, I'm going to try this. And so I talked with Rick Fay and Linda Ramsey because they are my main instructors.
Mm-hmm.
And not just that, they're like family to me now. I've known them since 2014. And they said, go for it. And Rick was just like, Lynn, I can see the wheels in your head turning as you're talking about what you want to teach them. And so I went and I trained and I've adjusted it over the years. But the people that have Parkinson's disease, the first time I was there, they kept saying when I came back and back and back, because I'm there twice a week. I'm there Monday nights and they're Wednesday mornings. So I was actually there this morning
Mm-hmm.
and teaching them. And it was just kind of funny. They said, did you make this up? I said, no, that's really flattering. But no, you're actually learning a martial art. And so they'll ask me, they'll get very curious and so what are you teaching me? So I'll explain Kali, and teach the umbrella term of FMA so they understand where I'm teaching from the southern region of the Philippines. And then they kind of get a glazed over look, after a while. It's like, okay, Lynn, you
Mm-hmm.
better, slow down, telling them about the background of FMA. But yeah, they love it. They like, and then when I put the footwork in and I have them step with the left foot, but strike the stick with the right hand. I mean, you can take so many different drills and make them very easy for them to digest. I get them for 2 minutes, mind you. 2 minutes is not a long time to teach them. a stick drill, especially when you got two people and they don't know what they're doing. So
Yeah.
I make sure that they don't hit themselves. I make sure their spatial awareness is there. And I teach some basic stuff. Sometimes I just teach a drill, and then I said, okay, in a couple weeks, we're going to put footwork to this. And that makes it a little bit more difficult. And I've just been amazed at when I can't say ECUS because they don't know what ECUS is. I said, make an X. Anytime I say make an X, they make it right before I even finish my sentence. The people that have been trained with me for about 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I came home, I think several weeks afterwards, and my son said, Mommy, I think this is one of the best things that you've done with this 12 years of knowledge of martial arts that you've accumulated, that you're sharing it with people that normally wouldn't go to a martial arts school. And he said, you're really improving their life. And so that's been a blessing to me. And from notices and letters I get from them, it's been a blessing to them too. So I'm very happy with it.
I, I bet it is a blessing. That's absolutely fascinating. At the very beginning of our conversation, you were talking about like they gave you your station and they're like, all right, get in there. 2 minutes. And literally, you had to figure it out 2 minutes at a time, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I mean, I didn't expect her to put me there the first day I went. I thought she maybe wanted to see what I train, what I do. She said, I'm
Mm-hmm.
fascinated that you do martial arts. I said, okay. So I brought the sticks, and this actually Rock Steady. There's two places in St. Louis that do the Rock Steady boxing. The one I'm at is in Fenton. And she said, well, we had some ladies that used to do it. So I'm coming from a background, I don't know what they taught them before, but I'm just draining from my knowledge of 12 years, and especially Rick Fay's curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got in there and I would change the drill every week. And it's like, huh, I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to teach them one drill for the length of a month so that they feel like they've accomplished something at the end of that month. And I'll build upon it as I see fit. And my brain, it's amazing. It makes me a better teacher. It makes me a better martial artist because they do things that they take the stick in a way that's not a kind of emotion, but it's a very unique way of coming back around. It's like, I said, well, that's not what we're doing right now. Kind of work off of Josh Pryor. That's not what we're doing right now, but that is a really good idea. So I tell them, encourage them, I'm learning from you as well, things that you're doing with the stick that maybe I'll incorporate later down the road. But I take a whole month, I teach them one thing. And by the end of the month, I can even see it in their eyes that they're ready to change to something new. And then that's my hard part because I have to think of something new, either take from Rick's curriculum or even take something completely out of the box and say, okay, Lynn, think of something that they can do in 2 minutes, that they enjoy, that they can get something out of. And when you have so many boxers with different abilities, because they're Parkinson's, they're dealing with tremors, they're dealing with balance, a lot of different things, that one group might come, and I know them after 4 years, I know quite a few people really well. I might have this group A, oh, I can push them a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got group B, they're really good, but they might have more balance issues. I'm going to take them and do a completely different drill that I think that they can learn something from. So it's really challenged me as a martial artist to be able to, on the switch, just say, oh, so-and-so's coming next. I'm going to switch the drill. And it seems to be working really well so far.
Well, it sounds like it is. Being a, and I'm going to make an assumption because I see you at events, and if I'm wrong, you can tell me. Being a primarily martial art instructor who's trained in seminars, which has been my experience. I've been in some schools, but a lot of seminars. Seminars, you drink from the fire hose, as you know, preaching to the choir. So, how do you go from drinking from the fire hose to disseminating so that you're doing a progression within a month in 2 minute increments? That's fascinating. That's like a completely different learning style, right? And then the way that you're doing it, which is following Guru Asano's tip, right? Tailor make, individualize, personalize. That's what I hear.
Right. Yeah, it's like you said, it's not easy, because I want them not to get frustrated. I want them to, of course, not hit each other. That's the
Yeah.
part. Nobody's hit each other yet, thankfully. It is hard because I mean I actually got to go to the Asano camp this year in March for the first
Yeah.
time, which was a wonderful thing. But yeah, that's literally drinking from a hose. There's a lot of stuff I'm like, oh my goodness, I've never seen it before in my life. That's really cool. But then trying to take that to keep my level of instructorship up, and then taking it and bringing it to people that will probably never go into a martial arts school. It really aids me a lot when I look into Rick's curriculum, because Rick Fay, will take something and you've seen it at one of Guru Inasano's seminars, and then it looks really familiar, but Rick has tweaked it a little bit. And sometimes I found it more difficult because I'm like, well, I've repetitively done this with seminars with Guru Inasano, and then Rick will have a seminar. I'm like, huh? And then once you get it, it's like, well, that's fascinating. That's lovely, and I might take some of that. Like when Rick wants you to do one thing on one side with 2 sticks and one thing on the other side with the sticks. I'm actually doing that with the boxers now. We call them boxers at Rocksteady, that they're learning how to chamber the sticks. And actually, I mentioned that today, and one of the guys has been doing it while he went like this. I said, well, we're not getting there yet. Hold on, Carl. We're not chambering yet. But he knew what I was talking about, which was like, oh, that's awesome.
That's cool.
So all they'll do is take that left stick, put it on their left shoulder. They're going to take this stick, put it here. They're just going to do like the Ortemis drill. They're going to go high, low, high. You're going to chamber this guy, and then I want you to do an X. Then I want you to bring this back down, and you go low, high, low, and then you know the drill. And then 2 high and low and high, then 1 high, 1 low. Instead of just doing the Ortemis for a family, we're doing 1, 2, 3, tucking this under, doing your Ecus, bring this back out. So that's the drill we've been doing. We're not putting any footwork. One of the guys today said, Lynn, the tape's not on the floor. I said, we're not doing any footwork, John, but if you want to, that's going to make this so much more difficult. And his partner's like, the tape, where the design is in your mind, John. It's not on the floor. You should know this by now. It's like, no, we're not doing footwork, people. Just hang with me.
And it's hard to take it out. I bet John's probably like, he's ready to move, and then now he's got to go to Fundo, and you see,
Yeah, and when I take them down to 1 stick, they're like, 1 stick? I said, yeah, 1 stick, and then I give them 2. Like one guy, we had 2 sticks today. I said, don't make me regret this, Carl. Just behave. Don't get too excited. And they just get the sticks and go, da, 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 da. It's like, okay, people, hold on. So I try to make it funny, relax. They had a recent volunteer. I'm a volunteer. I don't get paid to do this. I volunteer for it, which
God
I
bless
love.
You. That's awesome.
And yeah, and I get, this, I get paid back more than money could ever give. But these people are just, they had an appreciation month, and they put it all together. And they gave us little thank you cards, and I have them all on the mantle of my fireplace. And just some of the things they said was really heartwarming, encouraging. They were like surprised I could get things done, teach so much in 2 minutes. Even I am. And they were very gracious and very appreciative. And I try to make it lighthearted. I make jokes. If they're right here and they're supposed to be somewhere else, I said, no, your other left or your other right. My instructor always tell me that, Lynn, use your right hand. No, your other right. Oh, okay. And so I'll just make it funny for them, and they'll laugh. And if they correct something, I said, nice autocorrect, John. That was great. I'm glad you figured that out. Yeah, and they figure a lot of stuff out. I mean, some of we do stuff with staff work. We do single stick, double stick. We even did some stick and dagger. When I gave them a dagger, they were like, ooh. I'm like, okay, this might not be a good idea, giving them a training dagger. Yeah.
But we did, such a good idea, stuff. Lynn. It is.
I know. I know. If I train with it, why shouldn't they?
Right, so I mean,
it's a bladed art. It's a bladed art, and I explained that to them. I said, if I had a pair of swords, aluminum swords, I wish I did. They're so expensive. I would be bringing those puppies out, because that's really fun to hear the clanking of the swords. But I don't have swords; they're too expensive. But I have made staffs out of dowel rods. I made a lot of things out of dowel rods. I made a Dos Manos big heavy stick out of dowel rod.
Nice.
So I do a lot of stuff. I stain them, I paint them, and they'll do Dos Manos and stuff like that. And they're just like, ooh, it's a big stick. I said, hold it like a baseball bat. Everybody knows how to hold a baseball bat, most people. And I was in softball. So yeah, so I just make it fun for them, make it easy. I want to feel accomplished, and I am, every week I'm there, I'm amazed actually what they can do.
You're on fire when you talk about it, Lynn. When you talk about it, you're absolutely on fire. That is super cool. when you first started doing the martial arts and you're downstairs in the basement with the videos, right? This was not what you thought you were going to do with it.
Oh,
How
definitely
did
not.
that, what, right? And I mean, the creator, God, Buddha, Allah, whatever you want to call him, has a way. We find
Yeah.
these extra things, right? I'm interested in how did those two things come together?
Oh, wow. There's a lot of things I think that got me to where I'm at right now. And some of the things, I mean, I don't know your background, but sometimes you can see them as really bumps in the road.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as my martial arts experience, where either you've had failed friendships along the way, maybe things that I did or said, or just bad company on whatever side. And I think that just allowing those bumps in the road to be stepping stones, whether good or bad, has
Yes.
led me to where I'm at now. And so in the moment, some of those bad seasons of my martial arts career, I think for me, the Lord has used that to put me where I'm at now. If I hadn't left one school for whatever reason and gone to teach and learned through that when I was at a different place in St. Charles where I used to teach before I went to Rocksteady, I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I mean, during COVID was, of course, a terrible thing, but I think COVID changed all of us in many ways. And for me, it took me from out of one school into Rocksteady. And then at that time, I had instructors like Rick and Linda who were very wise and very, uplifting and encouraging for me to do this. And just like you said, Jamie, when I talk about it with Rocksteady, same thing when I was talking to Rick, I talked the same way. That's why he's like, Lynn, I see all
Mm-hmm.
these things going on in your brain. He got excited about it. And but people like that, even though stepping along different stones in life, some are very high, great things, and some are very low parts of life. They all mesh together to put me where I am now. So I'm very thankful, very grateful, and I'm going to keep training. I'm going to keep teaching rock steady people. My hip doesn't work as bad, but as good as it used to, So I started when I was 44. I'm 56 now, and I'm kind of like Rick Fay, and he says a lot of times in seminars, I'm gonna keep doing this until my body says no. He said, I'm actually be in a wheelchair and I'm still gonna do it if I'm in a wheelchair. So Rick Fay is a huge inspiration to me personally and in the martial arts, as well as Linda Ramsey. So yeah, that's a lot of those things have put me where I am today.
That's the best answer ever. And what I heard almost was Rick in there because you left out any buts. Sometimes we got to leave out the buts, and we all have buts. And I agree 100% in that thing. There's some schools I've been at that at the time I was like, ugh. But now that I have to run a school, I'm on the other side. I completely get how the hell the thing happened. Completely get it, right? But at the moment, not so much. So yeah, that's a really good answer. So, what is your favorite art? I know what I hear is you use more Kali to help people, right? When you're training, what is your favorite? Is that Kali as well?
My favorite has to be Kali. I mean, it's just
All our
and
instructors
it,
are going to watch this, Lynn, so I'm putting you on the spot. It was not cool. No, but yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, college, I mean, over the years, I've learned that the arts all integrate together.
Mm-hmm.
They complement each other, which I agree. And I love doing the JKD. I love doing the trapping. Kali seems like I mean, and Rick talks about this a lot. Sometimes you gravitate towards something that you seem to pick up easier. Not that I'm proficient at any part of that, but the Kali, there's something about it. I think it's the fluidity, the noise, the motions. It just makes sense to me. The other stuff makes sense to me too. I love the sea lot, but like I said, I can't go down like I used to. A lot of times I train with Guru Peter Hetrick, and we'll get to a point. Yeah, that's good enough. We're going to stop right there. Okay, now it's your turn. Okay, we just don't want to go down the ground. I mean, I used to train sea lot where I was throwing, I was being thrown, hands were being twisted, wrists were being twisted.
Mm-hmm.
So I know the movements. I'm fine with that, but my body just now is just like, eh. I don't know if that's a good idea going down. I get down, I know I get back up. But I've been working hard to kind of work on my stamina. I've been doing weight training just
Mm-hmm.
because I'm getting older, just to keep your, muscle mass there. So yeah, but Kali's one of my favorite. I've trained in the other arts, all the one across the board, JKD, Muay Thai, all the curriculum, because I'm an instructor under Rick, so I've trained all that. If I did Muay Thai rounds, I might be huffing and puffing by the time I'm done.
Me too.
But I've been
Yeah.
there, I've done that,
Mm-hmm.
so I passed. So yeah, I enjoy it, but I think Kali would be probably my favorite.
I could see that because I see you when you're doing Kali. And for me, and you said something which is the only thing I can say when it comes up is that's just what made sense to me. And the other things, I love them, so I'll force, but the Kali just made sense. Something about the weaponry. And another thing I'm finding by talking to our friends like this is that a lot of folks have learned how to learn through Kali because it can seem it well I mean it is so vast and there is so much to it and it's overwhelming, but then sometimes if you like it so much and you stare at it and you're willing to look like an idiot enough and almost poke yourself in the eye with the stick after a while, that's the thing that makes sense, and did you find that at all, that you found a new way to learn through Kali?
Well, I think through all the martial arts that we do, even Kali, that I mean, the whole thing is that when you're training it, the repetitions there, the drills are there, the weaponry trains the muscle, trains the mind. So I remember several years ago, I was in the garage with my husband doing something and finding things, and there was a shovel there. It almost fell on me. And so my immediate reaction was to go like this. And it was just like, what the stick? Where'd that come from? And I knew where it came from, but it's ingrained in my muscle memory. It's just there. And my husband will do kind of the wash on, wash off stuff when he says, yeah, they just do this all day long. I said, no, son, it's not just this and this. It's just in the muscle memory. And so when someone will say, well, show me something, I said, well, what do you want to see? Well, if I punched you like this, well, I don't know if you want to do that because I don't know what's going to come out. You know, that
That's a
might be
good
a
answer.
brave, bold move. But yeah, I found that the martial arts, the Kali especially, has just trained my body, my muscle memory, my brain. I'm very engaged in different things. I think clearer. I think the boxers, when they come up to me, they're saying, oh, I'm so glad that you're here. If I missed a day, she said, a lot of the ladies are like, yeah, I really love this. This is my favorite station. I don't tell everybody that. It's like, keep it down on the low. We've got other people
Mm-hmm.
working really hard, but they will come up and say, we love the movement. We love the way it changes our brain and our thinking. And I tell them, I said, when they did something today, I said, you know what? It's in your muscle memory if you've been with me the past 4 years, whether you know it or not. And it's going to come out. And they're just like, wow, I didn't realize that I was training this. I said, yeah, I always tell them repetition is your friend. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
say, do the same thing I just told you to do. Again, I said, do it again and do it again. And then I said, okay, don't worry, I'm going to change it on you. I'm 2 minutes. I'm still trying to talk at the same time I'm teaching. I'm like, don't worry, I'm going to change it on you. And one of the boxers who's known me for 4 years says, yeah, she's going to change it on you. Just don't get too comfortable there because she always changes what she's doing, which is true. I always change it. But yeah, I mean, that's why I think I'm like, in a sense, Rick fan, a lot of the martial artists who've been doing it as long as they have, and I'm going to keep doing it to my body. I mean, to whenever, but I'm going to keep doing it because it has so many benefits, not just to share with other people, but myself. But I don't want to keep it for myself. I want to share it. That's why I love going and doing it for Rocksteady, because I tell them, I said, I've seen the benefits for myself personally, and I know that you guys will benefit completely from it. And I think they have over the past 4 years.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. Uh, at some point, maybe you could like do a video and send us a video. Just think about it. I know you're right, and then you have to ask them and all of that, but that would be really, really neat. Um, the boxing rock steady, that like we have one in Milwaukee. That's around, but not a. Not a lot of folks are doing the Kali in it. I have a gentleman named Ralph Cronenwetter, and he started doing Kali right after he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and we do Kali. It's been 8.5 years or something like that. I've learned a lot from just being around him,
Yeah.
and
Oh
that's
yeah,
a
they teach me. Like I said, they teach me things I didn't think of. And one other segue I want to put in there, Jamie, is that in 2003, I got diagnosed with a brain tumor. And that was before I started the martial arts. And it turned out to be a benign cyst in the pineal gland of my brain.
mm-hmm.
But I got three surgeries. I had hydrocephalus, so they had to take the water off my brain. So I had an external shunt. Then they did a biopsy, turned out to be benign, praise the Lord. And the third one, they internalized my shunt. So I literally, this is part of my tubing right here that goes down from my head. And so I was kind of like a little wary or worry or whatever, I can't get the right word, of training the martial arts. So
Yeah,
anytime I have a training partner, I'm like, you know what, when I do a cover, I'm a little less, over here, it's a little, here it's great. Here I'm a little bit more worried because I have my shunt right here. But any person I've trained with, they've always been so understanding. They've been so like, are you okay? Is that fine? Can I do this? Are you all right if I take you down to the ground? I said, it's perfectly fine. So that kind of lays another foundation of why I'm doing what I'm doing
I could
outside of the
see that.
Parkinson's and Alzheimer's in my family. It changed my perspective on life. I mean, it should, in a good way, that every day is a gift, right? And this was when I was 35 years old. I had a son who was 5 and my husband, and I didn't know what was going to happen. And I've been now since 2003. I'm doing good. But I know that I'll tell you a story. I think I'm fine to tell you this, but I started trying to do BJJ. And I thought, I'm kind of that stubborn person. I'm like, I want to learn BJJ. I've never done it. So I went to school here in St. Louis, good school, very good school, a Gracie school. And I started training with a women's group. And I told them I have a shunt and I have tubing. But
Mm-hmm.
when they get that gi and they pull it up around your neck, especially on this side,
Uh,
and then they got hands like this, and I got this shunt tube here. And I told Linda Ramsey, she said, Lynn, you can't do that anymore. And Rick Fay said she was really mad at you, Lynn, that she was concerned for you. So, because they lift you up off the ground, your neck's on the mat, and it's like, you know what? Okay, stubborn Lynn has learned I can do BJJ, but I choose not to because I want to monitor my health and
yeah.
I want to do my other martial arts for as long as I can. And I love how Guru Asano always says you adjust things based on your age and I guess your health. And you want to do this for long term. And I am that person. I want to do this for long term. I've done it since 44 years old. So I'm a late bloomer, but I've already got, things making noises like snap, crackle, pop, and it's like that could be just age. It could be the martial arts in a combination of both. But yeah, I want to do it for long term. And so, my perspective just in general in life leads from that incident in my life in 2003 to everything I do, especially in the martial arts. And, I take each day as, a gift and I want to help people if I can along the way. And martial arts has been one of those things in my life that has been used in many ways. And I'm very grateful for that.
You're doing it. You're doing it. And speaking of gratitude, I bet. Well, anyway, let me ask rather than assume. When you're telling your training partner about your stunt, because we all have stuff, right? And do you find? I know that I find that people, for the most part, are really thankful that you're like, my name's Jamie. This is the bad shoulder. This is the bad knee. All right, now we can go train. Right. And I don't know. It's something about like, I feel like a little kid. Like, when my mom says I have to be home at 4:30. All right. Yeah. You too. All right. And then we're good. People are, do you find that they're grateful for that? I do.
Oh yeah. I mean, anybody I've trained with, everybody. I mean, I met so many nice, generous, kind martial artists along the way. I remember I went to the first, one of the first places I went to train. Well, my first seminar with Guru Asano was here in 2013 in St. Louis. And
Okay.
then he was at Keith Wachowski's place
Mm-hmm.
and far in the middle of nowhere. uh, in the boonies. And I told my husband, that was 2014. I said, I really want to go. So I went, and my husband was out in the outside. My son came too, but he wasn't training at that time either. But I was going to go to the seminar. I was going to train with the Apex group. And my husband sees all these guys come out with these big tattoos. It's like, he's like, why am I letting my wife go in there? He says, I must be insane. Why am I letting my poor little 5'2" wife go in there? And, I said, it's going to be fine. But, I think over the years, a lot of people in the martial arts, when they see him in seminars, my husband Solomon, he's like, they'll give me a hard time. He'll walk in the door. They'll say, hey, Solomon, so great to see you. And I'm like, hello, what about me? I'm here to train. I'm the one that can be thrown down, maybe hit by a stick. And you're saying hi to this dude. He doesn't even train. So yeah, over the years, I've just, learned that there's a lot of wonderful people, encouraging people. A lot of the ladies, 2013, when I was in St. Louis, my first seminar was when I met Diana Rathborn.
Mm-hmm.
I met Michelle Kuzma, and I met Linda Hatch. And I have a picture of all three of us. It's an old picture. It's from 2013. And we're standing there in the seminar, and it's a great picture. And when I saw Linda Hatch, she was signing, and I had learned how to do a little bit of sign language in college. And so I thought, oh my goodness, this woman is amazing. Her and David getting up there, I'm like, oh my goodness, they're older people, Sorry, David, Linda. They're older people, but they could rock it. And it's like my jaw was like, I mean, it was 2013, so I was still learning all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, it's amazing. So I went up and said, how are you? And she's like, oh my goodness. And she started signing. I'm like, no, 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 no. That's about all I know. But since then, so I've known the Hatches since 2013, and they've become like family. When we went, Rick's group went to Japan, I went. And I told my husband, I said, I really want to go. The Hatches are going. There's other people going. There's MKG group going. It's a trip to Takashi Uno's school. And so I went, and the Hatches were, like, we were like a threesome. We went everywhere, all over Japan. I got to train with them. And if you've ever held focus mitts for Linda Hatch, watch out. She will go at it. You do not want to miss where you're holding them, because she's got a lot of gusto. But my goodness, the wealth of knowledge that they've shared with me and encouraged me. And sometimes Guru would bring me up there when I'm learning. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I look so awful. And I sit down, I'm like, I don't know what he wanted. And then the Hatches will bring me aside, or other people, and come alongside and say, Lynn, this is what he was asking you to do. And so then your memory bank goes, okay, this is what I missed. This is what I need to get better. I'm a perfectionist. And when I first started the martial arts, I was so much a perfectionist that I lost the joy for the martial arts, because I was so stuck on my standard of how I should look, how I should perform. And I didn't like myself very much during that time. And maybe other people didn't like me so much. But through that, I realized, I sat back and said, okay, I got a family, I got a husband, a son, other people in my life that love me. And this is just part of my life. It's a very good part, but sometimes good things, we can allow it to become a bad thing because we put so much pressure on ourselves to perform in front of other people. It loses its luster, it loses its joy. And since then, I've kind of lightened up. I'm still a perfectionist, and don't get me wrong, I'm still a perfectionist in many ways, but I want to use that perfection in a right way, that it kind of spurs me on to be better, but not that it dampers the experience along the way. So
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of people are like that, and if I could be so bold, we have about 40% ladies at my school, and a lot of times my ladies are trying to do everything perfect the first time. And they're very detail oriented as I'm trying to help them. Sometimes I'm trying to figure out the best bullet points, right? Because any movement could have maybe 9 to 12 things. The hands come in, right? But when you first start, right? Maybe hand before body or body before hand, right? Such
right.
things, and we don't think about that. I've even had students that have admitted to me that they didn't want to practice, and this is both men and ladies at our school that they didn't want to practice at home because they were pretty sure they're going to practice it wrong. And it's like, well, this is calling. You swing that stick, you're getting some good out of it, right? You practice it
Right.
wrong, that's all right. Don't worry about it. You're swinging the stick. But it's hard to remember that, especially when you get to look at Guru Asano, Sifu Joe, Guru Rick, Guru Linda doing it looks perfection, right? And so at that moment, you just kind of want to make it look like that if you can,
Yeah.
right? Thank you for saying.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, I was kind of, you probably won't find it surprising, but just talking to me and knowing me a little bit, that I was one of the students that came home and practiced. I mean, I was in the basement for a stinking year, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I was used to sitting in the basement, right? So, but even Guru Matt Stumpf I was working on my uppercut angles with my stick, and I just wasn't kind of getting it right. And so he suggested, he's very creative. He would have me take two pieces of cardboard. I mean, this is my basement wall, so it's fine. It's drywall. No one's going to see. And so I took these two pieces of cardboard, made an upside down V, and then I attached them to the wall. And all I did for maybe 20, 25 minutes is take my stick and go up the line, go up the line,
Mm-hmm.
go up the line, go up the line. And I learned my angles a little more concisely, a little more tighter. I mean, I know our movements can be very concise and then sometimes they go very far out, but just basic stuff like that, that if I'm a perfectionist and I want to get better at this, I will take that extra time to get better at it. I can understand. I'm the kind of person too. What if I get into a bad habit that I immediately
That's
repeat
what
over
they're
and over again?
worried about, right? I mean, like any type, like having the escala and you're doing your up or off to the side or anything is a nice visual. But I just had folks that been like, maybe we did a C-lot form. And they're like, well, I was gonna. And like, well, you just showed it to me. And the only thing that was different was your hand was here and it should have been here. Well, I didn't want to practice it at home. So if you practice it at home, let's say in the last 3 days, 10 times, and it was from here to here, that's still good practice, right? And especially, well, especially swinging the stick. But
Yeah. I mean, I for someone else as a perfectionist and has been down that road, if I was there, I would just encourage them that, what do you do on a regular basis? You have a job, you have a family. This is just part of what you're doing. This is just a part of an extension of who you are.
mm-hmm.
Don't take it so seriously that you get bogged down into it, because then it's going to make your movements even more rigid, more tight. If you're worried about not getting it right, don't worry, it'll come back around. Because even my boxers, they'll do something and, oh, I missed that angle. I said, don't worry, it's coming back around. And then you can fix it. And then they fix it.
Yes.
It's going to come back around, And so when they do this and they go like this, I said, no, we're doing a high X. So today they were doing Icus and one was going like this and the partner was going up like this. I said, well, that's a great movement. I love it. But that's not what we're doing. So I said,
Mm-hmm.
no. And sometimes I get my hand in there, which is probably really dangerous. I get their stick and I said, no, you need to put it up. Let's get a high Icus. So they go through the drill. I said, and I think they wanted to go back to it. And one of the first things, of course, you probably learn too when we do sticks and collie is that the fluidity is there. If you miss the angle, you don't stop and come back. You just keep going. You roll with it. You keep going. Then you come back and I tell them, I said, okay, we're going to do this. And I watch them. I said, no, we're going to keep going. So they did this. And then they came back and then they got the right angle of the Icus. I'm like, that's what you need to do. And so I always tell them, I said, don't worry about it. It's going to come back around. We're going to do this for a month. But if people are struggling with, I'm a perfectionist and I don't let your perfection ruin the joy of the art that you're learning. It's going to make it harder for you. And trust me, I know you've probably been up in front of people. I've been in front of people and we make mistakes.
Yeah.
And you can't let it just bog you down. You just got to go, I don't know. And even people doing a long time, they come back and they say, Lynn, I had no idea what Guru wanted me to do. I said, I know. So you just get up there, you do the best you can, you listen,
Mm-hmm.
and you just go on. So that's the only thing I would tell somebody that's kind of bogged down on perfectionism,
Mm-hmm.
that don't let it squelch the joy that you're having learning it. It's going to make you more tight than you think, and it's just going to ruin the joy that you think you're going to have with this art. Don't worry. Every time my boxers, when they get this look on their face, like, I'm not going to remember this. I said, I'm not going to give you a quiz after this.
Good answer.
after
Yeah.
after you 2 minutes, there is no quiz after this. We're just going to have fun. And I think that lightens them up because it's like, I guess they thought I was going to give them a test or a quiz. I said, I'm not going to give you a quiz. I said, I'm going to borrow your brain for 2 minutes. I'm going to give you your brain back. And then you can go back to sweating over on another circuit and for another 2 minutes. They actually like my circuit because then they can catch their breath. Because I said they just came from off the floor doing a plank or something like that. I said, don't worry, I'm not going to take you to the ground. Not that we don't do that with what I train, but we're not going to do that today.
Not today.
Thank you so much. Not today. Yeah, right.
So, Lynn, my wife wanted to ask you, and you've trained at different schools. Could you give any advice to ladies that are training in different schools?
So they're training different arts in different schools, or the same art in different schools?
Let's say just to the traveling martial artist. You're a lady, right? And you whatever you want to go take a class, and you think you're used to something like the Kali group, where you show up and everybody's like, "Hey, come on," whatever. But now you're taking a jujitsu class or a different class someplace, maybe, and I have my own. This is specifically a question that comes from my wife because I have my own answers when you're a traveling martial artist, like the things that you check out. But how about for yourself?
So for me, I guess the best example is I agree with you in the beginning when you talked about a seminar trained, because I know Rick Fay he says all the time, he has no shame of it. He says, I am a seminar trained martial artist. And I think Rick told me that before. Lynn, I think you're one too. I said, yeah, I am, Rick. So I did one-on-one with Matt Stump for quite many years and Joe Craig one-on-one, but majority of my training was in seminars.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good thing, and it could be a bad thing, because like if I have a question now, I don't have anybody ask unless I ask Rick or Linda, which is a blessing because they're there and I can ask them anything. And one time I actually, Rick Fay said, Lynn, do you have any questions for me? He's warming up for one of his classes he was doing in Minnesota and stuff like that. And I can't believe it came out of my mouth. I said, no, Rick, I don't have any questions whatsoever. I'm waiting for Linda. When Linda comes, I have questions for her. I just dissed Rick Fay. I couldn't believe I did that. Most people would be like jumping on that idea of like, Rick Fay is here asking me, what martial arts question do you have? And I'm just like, I can't think of one I could ask you, but I have several for Linda. So that's my dissing Rick Fay story. But
I bet he thought that was hilarious, though.
He did.
I bet he truthfully thought that was like, that's really cool, waiting for Linda, whatever, And if I ever get a chance with him, I get really nervous. I don't know why. He's super nice, but I just get really nervous right behind, and then my question comes out like, and then he's got the look on his face like, I'm trying to get in the car, Jamie. It's been 2 days.
Yeah. Rick's a great guy. He's very sarcastic. So Rick Fay, I met in 2014. Yeah, I took a mukjong class with him and Linda. And I didn't know them. They didn't know me. I'm very sarcastic when you get to know me out of love. If I'm sarcastic with you, it means I like you a lot. And Rick's sarcastic, Linda's sarcastic, and I would make a joke or make some sarcastic remark, and they both look at each other like, who is this woman? Where did she come from? And we've got along since then. So very sarcastic with each other. And I tell all the Oli and Lena jokes, and that's for a different day. But yeah, traveling around to different martial arts, mainly seminars. But you're at different schools, you're with different people that are coming there, people that are hosting it. And usually when I went into a martial arts school for the first time, there's two parts of it. My first part is that since my perfectionism was there early on, I'd really get bogged down by some little drill I couldn't get, or someone there was doing so much better than me. Why can't I do it like that? Right? Yeah. And it would ruin the whole experience. But as I've been doing it for several years now, when I walk into a new martial arts school or a new seminar, a new place, or even BJJ, a good example, I walked into that place, my brain, I just made a blank slate. I don't know anything. I told myself, I don't know anything. I'm not better than anybody else. Kind of like Rick says, you leave your ego at the door. I'm there to learn. If I learn something, one or two things, great. Especially when I first go to Guru and Asano stuff, it's like that, like you said, it's like a fire hose. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't learn anything. But over the years, if I could get one or two things that he's trying to suggest or get through to us, awesome. So I've come a long way from the mentality of I have to learn it all. I got so much time, little time, and I got to learn it all. But if the ladies can go in with the mentality of I'm here to learn, I'm not perfect, I want to enjoy this, and let me see what little nugget I can get from the school or from the training this time, and I'll put it in my pocket in the back of my brain, and I'll add it to what I've already known. Or I take a lot of notes. When I'm going to go to a seminar, I go back over my notes. I train a week before I go. So let's say they've been to a seminar like Rick's seminar. They take a lot of notes, and they're going to see them in 2 months, 5 months, 6 months. I would encourage them to go back over those notes, go to the basement, take the time. He might not show the same drill, but you're mentally prepared for Rick because Rick will change things on you. And when he does like this high backhand, low backhand, but he has a high backhand, he puts a redondo in there. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's just like, wow, that's so cool. But then you go in his order for the high-low chart is different than in Asano's high-low chart. So I have to go back if I'm going to go see Guru and Asano. I have to study for a week under Guru and Asano's notes, and then I have to train under Rick's notes, if I'm going to his. So I would tell the ladies, be open for something you've never seen before. Give yourself some grace. You're learning. This is not a race. You're just going to gain some knowledge. Maybe you can share it down the road with somebody. But if you allow your perfectionism or I can't get this right now to get in the way, you're going to lose the whole point of going in the first place. So that would be my 2 cents.
That's awesome. Sometimes I just tell all the students, like, you're going to have a martial experience, and sometimes the martial experience is that you just don't want that shit to happen again, right? Sometimes, right? I mean, the first time I did judo, it's not judo, but the person I did it with cracked the gi, and like all my vertebrae was like, that was, we just got here, I guess what I was trying to ask, or, well, let me just ask this. How do you look for a training partner? Let's say, you know what I mean? You get there and all of a sudden, right? And you want to be open and train with everybody, right? You go to, if you're used to a place like the Kali group, like I am, and I feel like you are, then you're going to make some friends. You're going to get switched around anyway. But sometimes this is definitely a faction. This is definitely a faction, right? Or I just need to find a training partner that will gel with me. How do you find one that gels with you, Lynn? Now I'm really picking your brain. This is all about me now. Just picking your brain.
It's hard because, like, I've been to lots of seminars. I've had lots of training partners. Some I picked to come with me. I'm not as brave as Guru Pete Hedrick. He'll walk into a place and just pick somebody. He's brave. But I try. It doesn't always work. I try to get a training partner before I go.
Okay.
And Rick Fay looked at me one day, and I told him that. He says, "Why do you work so hard to find a training partner before you go?" He said, "I used to go and just train with whoever's there." And I'm thinking, well, that's fine, Rick, but things have changed, and I'm a woman with a shut in her head. So I want to make sure I have a good training partner. But sometimes you get a training partner. I'm not saying that I'm the best training partner sometimes too. It depends. But I've had some that just go really hard with the stick. Next thing you know, I have a bunch of, calluses on my hand because I'm just holding the stick and because we're whacking the stick too hard. So I have to step up sometimes and say, can we go a little bit easier? And if I tell Linda Ramsey, I really can't, I really got all these blisters on my hand. And in a loving way, Linda says, Lynn, you should have said something. You tell your training partner very respectfully that can we go a little bit easier on the stick, because I did it one time and I had Band-Aids all on my hands because my training partner, it was a great training partner, but the person was just going way too hard for me and it just didn't work really well. But I usually pick my training partner if I can before I go someplace. but it doesn't always work. And sometimes I've been in round robin, where you've got 3
Mm-hmm.
people and work in and out with them. Like right now, I'm going to be going to, Lord willing, I'm going in October to see Guru Asano in Tulsa. I have no training partner. And so I reached out to someone and I haven't heard back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this person probably, it's an MKG person. I'm sure they've got somebody, but I said, hey, if I can just work in with you guys. Sometimes I find it is actually good to work with 3 people
Well,
because you get
yeah.
different energies from that 2 people. And when you're not the person that's being trained with the other person, when they're doing their training, I take the opportunity to take my notes.
See, feel,
And
do.
it works really good
Yeah.
because I remember one year I was trying to take notes with Guru Asano and I was writing things down. I wasn't watching what was going on. I learned very quickly I can't do that with Guru Asano. Lynn, oh gosh, I don't have no idea what he just said. I'm writing these things down. Come on up here. It's like, oh my gosh. So I learned really quick that, any seminar, it doesn't matter who is teaching it, you can take your notes, but for me, everybody's different. I can't take the notes and listen and then know exactly what I have to. I'm a very visual person. I have to watch them and say, that's what they want to do. And then when I get a chance, I can write it down. So if there's 3 of us, it gives me a nice little buffer of time while they're beating each other up, beating the crap out of each other, that I can take my notes until it's my turn to kind of get back into the group. But yeah, I try to now, especially as I'm getting older, I like to keep a training partner that I'm very comfortable with, knows my history with my shunt. There's nothing wrong with that. But like Tulsa, like I said, I'm kind of like in limbo right now. I'm sure I'll find somebody, but I'm still going. I need to get my extra 10 hours in for the
For
year. So I
sure.
need to go to Tulsa. So I'll find somebody. But yeah, I try my best to have someone set up before I go, if I can at all possible.
My wife's gonna like that answer. For sure. She will. She'll definitely like that answer. I feel like Rick is like, we want to get in the car. We're just gonna go and go play. I mean, that's the only way I'd feel like Rick. Outside of that, I almost stick in my eye some days. But I'm used to just going. And my wife and I were gonna go to the Inasano Academy. We leave on Sunday, and she's never been, and we're looking forward to spending some time with Guru. And I really am trying to like make a CLAT seminar because it just so happens the day we're coming in, there's also a seminar, but I didn't know about it. But I might give my wife a coronary because we have 45 minutes to get our like luggage and then get to the camp. I just don't. She might that like she just might, yeah, and I'll deserve it. So, but we'll.
Yeah, that should be fun. I mean, like I said, I went in March for the first time and it was overwhelming. I had the hatches there with me. That was nice. I had Guru Brenda King as my partner.
Oh,
She's very good.
she's very
Learned a
good. Yeah.
lot from her. And then she had to take off halfway through, and I'm like, what do I do now? And so the 2 guys were there, and she told them, "You take care of her." I was like, "Oh my gosh!" So I was actually we did when they did not the testing, but they did the panning, because Simo Cookie said, we're just going to pan. And she said,
Mm-hmm.
see it as a gift. And I'm sitting there because the first time, like, what does that mean? So I asked the hatches. They said, you don't have to get up in front of everybody. Oh, thank goodness. Like, woo. Like, oh, it is a gift. Yay. So,
Yeah.
but still, I was on the side because I kind of felt awkward of training with these 2 guys. I don't want to ruin their mojo. And they've been training the past 3 days. But then Guru Joe Craig was there. He was one of my first instructors, and he came over and he said, Lynn, you really need to kind of get in there. I was just beating up a heavy bag, and I said, okay. So I sheepishly went over to these other 2 guys and I said, can I work in with you? And I think they got from Brenda King, you take care of her. And they said, sure. So I worked in with them and it worked out really well. We just traded off, and it worked really well because halfway through, Guru said, Lynn, oh my gosh. Well, so I went up with this guy. I've never trained. That's the amazing thing about the art. I've never trained with this guy before in my life. But the way that Guru travels around and we travel and follow him around, whether at the academy or at different states, we did this drill and we knew exactly the drill. We watched him do it, of course, but it was very fluid. And we just matched each other's movements and everything very well. And so I think that's one of the beauties of the art is that we train from different backgrounds even Rick's group comes from overseas. But if you ask them to do one of Rick's drills or Guru Asano's drills, and you show it to them, we're not like shocked, like, what is that? Because we've seen it over and over again, and you can just pick up. And but I train with those guys the rest of the weekend, so it was really nice. But it is overwhelming. It was overwhelming to me because watching the other instructors that live in California and train and get there and demo, you're just like, you're almost like, wow, that's sweet. That's really cool. That's how it's supposed to look. You're like, wow, they know what they're really doing. So you
Mm-hmm.
learn stuff. So I think she'll have a good time. She just needs to take a deep breath. There's a lot of people there, and it's going to be busy and a lot of clanking with the sticks, but she just needs to take a deep breath and just soak in what she can. And I think she'll have a great time.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to tell her. We will all have those things, and she's seen Guru Asano at different seminars, and we all have those moments. And then Guru comes out and he starts teaching, and you start moving, and you're not worried about anything other than how do I figure out this angle too, right? So it's I'm sure it's going to work itself out. Lynn, I've really enjoyed having you on the show. Would you
Thank you.
come back and see us again? And maybe we'll have a video and you could talk a little bit more about some of your students?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to.
Yeah, that would definitely be really cool. And also, do you have anybody that you would recommend a martial arts instructor for the show, somebody who has a good story? Now, I ask this of all my guests, and I also say, you don't have to recommend somebody because sometimes people don't want to be recommended, right? So don't feel like you have to, but if there is, love to hear about them either here on the show or you could send me a message. But
Yeah, I mean, there's I don't know who you've had on. I've seen some of the guests you've had on. Any time of day, I always love to hear from David and Linda Hatch.
yeah,
They're just a great wealth of knowledge, and I've seen them on podcasts before, and they do a great job, and I just love them to death. And then Linda Ramsey, I don't know if Linda be up to it, but
I'm
I
after
Linda's probably
her
one of my.
all of the time.
I know.
That's
She's one of
well,
my best friends. We talk about crafts probably more than we talk about martial arts because we craft things a lot. A lot of painting rocks and all kinds of funky stuff, painting hubcaps, and don't get me into that. But yeah, we do all kinds of stuff. Linda's probably one of my best friends. We talk about cooking, crafts, martial arts. I've been wanting to have her come here and just spend a weekend with me and bum around, and it hasn't happened yet. But yeah, Linda, I know most about her martial arts background, but not a lot because we're talking about cooking and crafts. So I don't think to ask her about that, but she's such a talented martial
yes,
artist,
she
very
is.
giving, very sincere. She always wants her students to do their best, and I've just had nothing but good things to say about her and my martial art journey. Anytime I've been in Minnesota, Lynn, I want to show you something, or what do you want to work on? Because I've dissed Rick Faye. So I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Sorry, Rick. Not today. So, but yeah, yeah, I would love to hear, what she has to say, but good luck with that. I'm not sure. But those are the two people I always love hearing from. So,
Yeah. Well, I'm working on it. Okay, and we'll see. She is such a wealth of knowledge, so nice, so giving of tips and things like that. Yeah, we're working on that one. We're working on that
awesome.
one. Excellent.
Good.
But we're gonna have you back on the show at some point. And you said you don't know who we had on. Next time you're on a podcast, Lynn, you have to lie and you have to say you've watched all the episodes, right? And you have to say that you've already liked, subscribed, and all that happy horse shit. Right, so that's a little, and then nobody ever checks. Don't worry about it. Nobody ever checks. You don't have to. But at the same time, because I'm sure you've watched the show before, Lynn. That's
Yes. Yes, I have. I
She
have. I watched
sold
it.
it, guys. She sold it. All right, but
Yeah.
we're gonna have her back, and we're gonna talk a little bit more next time about Rocksteady boxing and the Filipino martial arts in boxing. Uh, Panantukan coming from boxing, and now you're using it to help boxers. I don't
Yeah.
know. Could be the list of coolest things ever that I've talked about today. Just
Awesome.
saying. All right. This is Jamie Sparling. I'm the head instructor of Affinity Martial Arts and Wellness in Wausau, Wisconsin, and host of the FormABLE Podcast. And I am with Lynn Varghese, Rocksteady Boxing and Martial Arts, Kali, Filipino Martial Arts, helping others. Thank you for coming. It warms my heart, everything that you said. Thank you for coming. It's nice to see you.
Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate it. Take care.
Take care. We'll see you next time, guys. Like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. We'll see you next time. FormABLE Podcast.